It's 6 o'clock Tuesday UK time, and we're here live again on Facebook for the eighth week running. And that's really part of the theme of what we're doing today, looking at how come we are here, but more importantly, how do we survive and thrive in a situation that some people were not expecting. So as you come in, please drop a comment. We're using a slightly different system today, which should mean that your comments and my speaking are much more in sync, but we don't have the beautiful background. So you're going to have to be looking at my sofa, a guitar, and if you're really observant, you may notice something pink on the shelf behind the guitar. Anyone guess what that is? Excellent. Hi, Michelle. Lovely to see you. Yeah, if you can guess what that pink thing is, let me know. Hi, Jenny. Good to see you too. So, if you can do me a favour, someone can just type down what the time is, and that will give me an idea of how much of a lag there is between me talking and you hearing. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. So, some of the old faces. Is a brain. Well done, Jenny. Now, that brain has travelled with me around the world. I'll get it out for you, since you're interested. Here he is. This brain has travelled with me around the world, and I always get stopped in customs and security when they scan my case and they go, what is that thing? And then because it's got metal inside it, but yeah, it's a brain, slightly smaller than most people's. Let's pop it down there. Thank you very much. So, welcome. So, what are we talking about today? Well, this is, as I say, the eighth one. We've been doing this for 2 months now, every week. So far, we've had, I think, over 10,000 people view, either join in live or watch it on YouTube, on the podcast channels, or on Facebook. So continue to share it with your friends. It's brilliant that people are getting a lot from this. I know that some people say it's their favourite evening of the week. You guys need to get out more. Cheers. Vodka today, I think. If you are having a drink, this is actually water, although I was considering vodka today. It's been one of those days. If you are having a drink, then let me know what it is. I'd be fascinated to find out. So what are we going to focus on today? Well, what have we focused on so far? Maybe if you've been to some of these previous ones, you can drop a little comment as to what it is we focused on before. I will be recovering some of the things, not because I don't have more than 8 weeks of stuff to talk about, but some of the things are really, really important. And even more so as we go further into the bizarreness of this time. So we had, certainly in the UK, and I know we have international viewers, but in the UK we had the lovely Boris Johnson doing his speech, which for those of you who study psychology and human behaviour was a fascinating event for a number of reasons. First of all, the massive lack of clarity in his speech was quite extraordinary. So if anybody's trained with me, you'll know that if you want to create a clear commitment to something and a very a cast iron guarantee that something's going to happen, then you start off by stating your goal in a very specific way. And every goal has to have some clarity as to exactly what it is that you're delivering. It needs to have a timestamp saying we will do this by when, and it also needs to say something about what specifically you will have achieved. So some people call these smart goals. and Boris Johnson, particularly his finishing statement, which was about quarantine, missed completely all of those points. He said something like, we are going to impose some kind of quarantine when people arrive by air for some length of time at some point. And as I say, therefore missing all the all the key targets that you need to have something that you could actually do something about. And of course, the next day, once again, as they've done it quite a few times here, they said, oh, also not just airports, but also any trains and stuff, and not France and not Ireland. So really not a brilliantly well thought out plan. And also, the other really interesting thing, which many people noticed, was his slightly bizarre gestures he was making. It was like he had been coached in some way to be more dynamic, but it was in a very incongruent way, which reminds me that I've just done a lecture about this, that when we communicate both verbally and non-verbally, and anyone know what percentage of communication they reckon is verbal? So the words, what percentage of our entire communication is verbal? Anyone want to have a guess at this? Stick the number down. Is it 50? Is it more? Is it less? Is it 20? Is it 15? Is it 40? Well, let's see. The answer actually is, and there seems to be just as much of a lag doing this in this system. Well done. Tio's got it exactly on the money. It's 7%. 7%. There are different calculations, but they reckon 7% is your words. A chunk of it, about another 40%, is your voice tone and speed, and the rest is your physical gestures and postures. Michelle has been using the 3-2-1 technique that we taught about 17 years ago, it feels like, about a month ago, where we looked at sleep. And there's a very brilliant technique based on the work of Milton Erickson's wife, called the 3-2-1 technique. We may go through that again if people want to know about that. Moving your voice and moving your voice around. Yeah, okay. So we talked about inner voices on one of the episodes where we said we all have an internal dialogue, and our internal dialogue is very often not as great as it should be, and tells us all sorts of stuff. And anyone want to go with what is the one thing we say about the internal dialogue? I'll probably race you to it. We say, if you treated your friends like you treat yourself, would you have any? So if that internal conversation you actually had out loud, what would people make of it? And then Michelle also says, something we talked about last time about problem frame and solution frame. I wonder if anybody can remember what the other frames were. There were 3 frames you talked about. So you can look at things as a problem, like this and that, and that's what a lot of people are doing at the moment about this lockdown. It's going on and on and on. So we've got problem frame, or we've got solution frame. Solution frame is like, okay, what are we going to do about this? This is the way it is. We could spend a lot of time bitching about it, and certainly people do, or we could look at how we're going to resolve this. Other 2 frames, the other one was moving from failure to feedback. What if we could understand things not in terms of, I failed at this, but this just gives us more information as to how we can maybe improve next time. And the final one was moving from impossibility to a sense that what if we could actually do something. So again, this is very interesting frames to be in, because people are in this place at the moment where external forces are controlling their lives in a way we're not used to. That sort of happened when we were kids. When we're adults, we're like free from the chains of people telling us what to do, so we think. And this is a real case where that's not happening. We may want to go to the pub or meet our friends. It's like, no, you can't do it. So often when this stuff happens, we don't have the requisite skill set because it's so unusual. So very often instead, we sneak back into old patterns of times back when we had to deal with authority or people telling us what to do, and we didn't like it very much. Some other questions coming up. Did a lovely LP hypnosis on stress. Excellent. We need to be more compassionate to ourselves. We spent a whole session talking about compassionate, the power of compassion and gratitude and loving kindness on physiology, because of course one of the things we're always talking about here is how we can improve our lives. That's including our health and our mental well-being, and how those 2 things are intimately connected. In fact, when you change one, you change the other. And a lot of the work we've been looking at, because we are a bit limited as to what food we can eat, how much exercise we can do, the physical stuff, is looking at how can we shift our mental stuff to change our physiology. We also got some other suggestions. Jenny says helpless, hopeless, and useless was actually hopeless, helpless, and worthless. Worthless being a sense of not deserving. We talked about that, I think, last time. Beliefs we talked about a lot last time, and in fact, some of you may have seen on Facebook, a lot of the stuff I was talking about was from this great guy called Robert Dilts, who works in California, who trained me a long time ago, and I just let him know that we've been talking about his work, and he was very pleased to hear that it was still making a difference. So he says hi to you all. So lovely. Robert says hello. Jenny says practice makes permanent. Yeah, it was actually something I learnt from some students of mine at London Met, and I've adopted it because I quite like it. Instead of practice makes perfect, which of course is the usual way we say it. And what did we say about perfect? I think we said this a few sessions ago, that perfect, you can only have perfect or joy. You can't have both. You can't have a striving for perfection and joy. It's just not possible. Teresa says, it'd be great to do something on sleep tonight. Okay. I wonder if we've got some people here who did the sleepy thing it was probably about 6 weeks ago now, who'd like to tell us a bit about what happened. I think a lot of people had some really good results from that. Getting rid of panic attacks. Excellent. Top tip for panic attacks. Anyone want to throw one in? I've got some, but if you want to throw your best solutions, we have a number of practitioners on the call. Migraines. Excellent. All the good stuff's coming up now. Migraines, making a note of this. Yeah, migraines, sleep. Migraines a lot recently. I'm doing fear of them which causes my problems. Yeah, that is one of the tricky things with a lot of this stuff, is that stress increases illness, and stress increases blood pressure, and stress increases adrenaline, and stress changes your sugar load and all sorts of stuff. And Jen's saying, thank you for saving my life. Oh, well, my pleasure, Jen. Have we met? Was it just through one of my amazing practitioners? 3, 2, 1. Again, Jenny's talking about that. And migraines again from Lisa. There was also an interesting question about loneliness that was sent in by someone, which I'll make a note of as well. So we've got lots of stuff to cover. And one of the things I do want to focus on today, based on all the stuff that's going on in the kind of crazy world out there, yeah, we've got some good examples of what to do with anxiety. Vicky said some stuff, Fleur said some stuff, Jenny said some stuff. So one of the things Vicky said, great solution for this. Really simple thing to do. Everyone practice this. Just check in right now with the sound of your internal voice. Not what it's saying, but its speed. If your internal voice is fast and going, oh my God, and high-pitched, that will encourage stress, encourage hyperventilation, and put everything on alert. So instead, just as Vicky suggests, lower the tone of your voice, just like I'm doing now. Speak kindly, slowly, more smoothly and flowing. And as you do that, whether you're doing that out loud or you're doing it in your head, it will slow down your physiology. It will make things calmer and settle things. And you can probably notice as you listen to me talking, because my voice tone has changed and my speed has changed, you'll notice yourself just starting to settle. There's a nice story I may have told you guys before. A guy who taught me years ago said that the power of stories, so we tell a lot of stories in our trainings and in our work with clients. Stories are very, very important. Stories have a number of reasons for being important. One is they send a message, tell a message to the conscious and unconscious. You can also embed all sorts of interesting conversations within stories. But also, not only is there the content, it's the delivery. Stories will often reconnect us instantly into an old memory of niceness. So if you say to somebody, I'm going to tell you a story, just settle yourself down. Once upon a time. Now what happens as soon as you say those phrases, assuming that your childhood relationships with stories and that phrase is quite nice, you will find your neurology kind of like going, and starting to settle down. So stories have a lot of power. This guy was on a train with some of his kids going back from London to Cambridge, and it was rush hour and the kids were a bit fractious and the train was busy, and he happened to be a hypnotherapist. So he thought he'd just tell his kids a story, and he said, so, kids, he said, lowering his voice, becoming smoother and more comfortable in the way he spoke, he said, once upon a time, there was a beautiful, beautiful princess. And he started to tell this story. And he said, by the time he got to Cambridge, the kids were asleep, but so were all the businessmen. They were all snuggled up to each other, sucking their thumbs. So the power of story is something that is almost irresistible. And that's why I told you a story about a story. And that's often how stories work, isn't it? A story within a story. Jen says something very nice. I was doing very deep depression. You saved me and showed me how I could do something about it. Excellent. I'd be forever indebted. There's a few people whose lives were completely blighted by depression who turned it around almost miraculously in a few minutes or hours. It's quite extraordinary. Chili says, there's a thing about one of the most powerful things you can do is choose which memories you are accessing. There's lots of evidence that it changes your physiology. And there are lots of ways to do that, some which are good and some which aren't good. The not good way to do it is to get stressed about it and go, I've got to think of a memory when I'm calm. Oh God, I can't think of a calm memory. Is this one any good? I don't think it's as good as it should be. And getting all kind of flustered about the memory. If that's you, just drop a comment to tell me that is you. If you do that kind of trying really hard to get the right memory, the proper memory, and get yourself stressed in the process, then you've kind of missed the point of doing it. Instead, what you want to do is be kind to yourself and just take a few moments to kind of go, whatever memory I come up with will be good enough as a starting point. It may lead me to other memories. The other thing that classically people do when they remember something is they what's called disassociate from it, which means they remember it as if it's happening to, so let's imagine I am this cat, right? And here I am, I'm on the beach, I'm having a lovely time. When I'm the cat, remembering being on the beach, it's like seeing myself, seeing myself on the beach. Oh, I remember being on the beach. But actually what you want to do is you want to be actually back on the beach, feeling what it feels like to actually experience what it feels like to be back there again. That will increase the quality of the experience and the neurotransmitters and stuff. And the other classic way people have of getting in the way of recalling a positive experience is by what's called editing it, where they go, I remember that time I was laxed or energetic, and they go, no, but I'm not anymore. And then what they're doing is kind of bringing information from 2020 back into the memory, which didn't exist at that time, because if it's 10 years ago, whatever's happening now didn't exist. And so that's another classic way to mess up good quality memories. So getting in the way by going, we've got time to do this, all this kind of stuff. Hello Mary, nice to see you. So instead, great ways to get yourself into a nice state. Well, let's do it. First of all, what I'd like you to do is think about what state you would like to be in. And by state, in case you're not familiar with my work, state means a particular state of mind, a particular way of being, particular activation of certain sets of thoughts. And the state of mind could be being present, it could be being compassionate, it could be relaxing on a beach, it could be feeling confident, whatever for you. What I'd like you to do is just allow yourself to notice what state you would like to be in. Whatever state you're in now, forget about that. Ask yourself, what state would you love to be in? What state would be so magical to be in right now? And as you think about that, a couple of things it has to fit in terms of a tick sheet. First of all, make sure you're stating it in terms of positives. So instead of saying not stressed, make sure it's like calm. Second thing, make sure you use big words. So like deeply calm, really incredibly immersed fully in the experience of being really, really calm. And then what I'd like you to do is to just allow yourself, maybe close your eyes as long as you're not driving, to float into a place where you're open to connecting to some experiences that you've already had of times when you felt whatever this state is. So if it's a time of deep relaxation, think, okay, when was I deeply relaxed? This weekend I was in a hammock. Some of you know this because I posted a picture of it. And it was one of those moments where I looked at the sky and it was beautifully blue. And the clouds were wispy above, and the air had that really beautiful feel to it, like warm, not too hot, not too cold, just like Goldilocks, weather. And I was in the hammock, I could hear the birds tweeting, and the trees were so green. And I thought to myself, this is a moment that I just need to remember. I need to really kind of be here, because this would be an ideal moment in the future to come back to. So one of the things that's useful to do is when you do experience a good moment, to clock it, to really note it, to spend some time in it, and start to flesh it out, not just kind of ignore it, just be there so that you can go back to it again in the future. I would recommend focusing on 3 things, and this comes back to the 3-2-1 which we talked about earlier. What you can see, what you can hear, and what you can feel, what sensations you have. So if you're in your hammock, as I was, you would see the sky, you'd notice as many things as you could see, you'd hear the sounds, and you'd also feel the sensations. So for you, as you take yourself back to this time, allow yourself to go back and really re-explore things you can see. Notice the colours and the shapes and the shades and the lighting, the stillness and the movement, the things that are near you, the things further away. Connect with those, and as you do, take a few moments to then pay attention to what you can hear, both outside and within. Just checking in with that, feeling how that feels. And then to float into the feelings and notice the sensations, whether that's the temperature of the air, the feeling of the surfaces you're in contact with, what your body feels like, what your skin feels like, what the clothes or materials close to your body feel like. And as you connect with that, allow yourself to breathe that feeling in, really, really experience how that feels. And just by doing that, you'll notice that you're shifting your state. Now, my voice that I'm doing at the moment is a relatively calm one. We'll do one about motivation in a minute, because of course the voice I use, or the voice you use if you're doing this to yourself, will encourage certain states. Certain ones will be more linked to calmness and more linked to motivation. Generally, being calm is one of the things that most people need. Even people who say they're tired, often they're quite stressed and tired, and being calm could be one of the very first things you can do to get yourself into the right state. So we've got some other comments coming up here, which I'll quickly look at. So Clara says she had a recent lapse of ME after recovering 11 years ago, went back to doing the Lightening process. No E in the Lightening process, Clara, come on. And she's well again. Fabulous. That's great news. So I was asked recently by someone, does the Lightening process work if you do it a second time? And anyone doesn't know about the Lightening process, it's kind of the thing that I developed about 21 years ago to help people resolve chronic illness by looking at how you can apply the science of the mind-body connection. And occasionally we stumble across people who've done the Lightening process, did really well, then stop using it, life happens, then they find themselves slipping and sliding into illness again, and then they've forgotten how to use the tools, and they go and see a practitioner and do it a second time, and the majority of them find they get really good change. It's a question I get quite often asked. And another question I get often asked quite a lot is, if you've done the Lightening process, is it possible to relapse? And the answer is yes and no. If you use the process consistently, then you won't relapse because using the Lightening process is about steering your physiology in a good, healthy way. But of course, we're all humans. We don't necessarily keep up the skill set that we learned at school, in our Spanish class, anywhere in life. So it's not surprising that people leave the lightning process with the best intentions, do really well, and then as they kind of go, I'm doing fine. It's a bit like smokers, who go, I've stopped smoking, and then a few years later they go, I'll just have one, I'm sure I can be okay with one. Has one, and then suddenly they're back in old habits. So it's slightly different in that being ill isn't a habit, but neurologically we can fire up old bits of physiology and neurophysiology that aren't useful for us. And the most important thing you can do, if that does happen, is to be kind to yourself, get in the swing of the skills, get help from practitioners. As Teresa's saying, there's some refresher courses, so you don't actually have to do the whole lightning process again. Sometimes it's just a question of having an hour session or a couple of hours session. So, what else we got? Messages here. Okay, that's good. We're up to go to messages. So, we've got something about loneliness. So, somebody was saying they spend a lot of time on their own, but in coronavirus, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, that they've actually spent more time connecting with other people than they normally do. And a lot of people have experienced that they've been having more virtual conversations. I mean, I've done more of these seminars than I have probably in the last year. And interestingly, we're thinking of running some more of these seminars because at some point I'm going to stop doing these seminars, but we're thinking of doing some more formal version of this where we actually coach people specifically on some stuff that they want to change. Hey Abdi, good to see you. Abdi's a very fascinating and wonderful person. I'll tell you about him, or he'll tell you about himself. I'm sure he'll point you, and feel free to point everyone in the direction of your YouTube channel, Abdi. He's one of my students at London Met. So if you are interested potentially, and we're just fleshing out what it would look like, of having some online regular group coaching things where instead of just talking generally about stuff like we're doing at the moment, we start to look at okay, what are you up to, what are you doing, how can we support you in making sure that happens, and using all the skills we have to bear on coaching on that. If you're interested in that, then do let me know. So we're talking about people. So drop a comment on that if you that sounds of interest to you in what you're doing in your life. We're talking about loneliness. That this person was particularly saying that they're quite concerned that when lockdown goes away, all those connections will disappear again, which may be true. Although I think the world will be quite a different place. I think this virtual world that we're creating here is going to continue, and that will be very interesting for people. Loneliness is really, it's not so much about being alone, it's about where you're putting your attention. Are you noticing what you have or what you haven't got? And one of the most important things you can do when you have an experience of being lonely, then you need to reconsider and ask yourself, okay, what is my focus here? I remember years ago I was walking in the national parks in America completely on my own, and I felt very lonely. I'd just been through a breakup in a relationship, and I was just kind of wandering around just trying to work out what to do next. And I remember thinking, I'm really, really alone, I'm so lonely. And as I walked along this path in Yosemite, if you're interested, this little chipmunk kept on running behind me. Everywhere I looked, this little chipmunk was there. And I thought, oh, and I don't know if you know, in Native American culture, animals are supposed to be signs from the Great Spirit. That animals are seen to be fellow travellers on the Great Road, and that you should pay attention to animals. And so, because I was in their land, I thought I should pay attention to the chipmunk. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Well, I'm not alone because there's a chipmunk that keeps on following me around. And then I thought, you know what? On board my body, I have literally millions, if not billions, of single-celled animals, bacteria and viruses, because in your gut, you've got loads and loads of really good bacteria that produce vitamin K and D and E and all sorts of things, and they're really important for your gut health, your biome. And the having those things aboard is essential for your wellness. So really, you are never alone. You've got millions of friends on board all the time. So the question is, where is your attention? Are you focusing on the fact that nobody is here right now, or are you aware that you've got lots of friends inside of you, or that the trees are just out there, or there's some people over there? What is your attention? Because if you can't, and here we are in lockdown, if you can't connect with people physically, then how do you still get the benefit, the nurturing benefit? And it is important connecting with people on lots of levels hormonally. How do you get that connection? Okay, got a question here. Can't wait for real life to be restored and end the virtual everything. Conversation with the cat is not good. And I'm talking to the walls. Okay. My dog is a brilliant conversationalist. Always has been. Helped me through my PhD. Jenny's saying hello to her T helper cells. We have so many cells in our body. So, next thing we're going to look at is motivation, which is one of the things I wanted to talk about today, because we are in the 2-month stage of this, and there are some clues from the government that in terms of the length of time, and I don't want to dash your hopes, but if you listen to everything they're saying possibly maybe by July we might get the hairdressers opening, but it's very much possibly. Schools are unlikely to go back till September, and today they announced that the furlough payments are going to continue at least till October. That gives you a pretty good roadmap that this is going to be going on for some time. So how do we stay motivated when that future stretches in front of us? And I use the word stretches advisedly, because we're going to look at what are we conjuring up in our mind, because of course the future doesn't stretch in front of us. The future doesn't even exist, actually. All that exists really is now. The past doesn't even really exist. It doesn't exist in a tangible way like this beautiful roll of sellotape. It's a concept. So how do we stay motivated when this is going on? We talked about some of these things before, but worth reminding. One of the most important things to do is to think about what inspires you. Now, that could be what you're passionate about, what you love, or it could be what pisses you off. What do you go, I'm not okay with this in the world? Because a lot of people, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, you name them, one of the reasons they got up and did what they did was they go, this isn't on, I'm not having this. So they were motivated by what's called an away from, saying, I'm not prepared to have this in the world if there's a chance to change it. It actually comes back again to the Serenity Prayer. The guy, Reinhard Newbold, was also very much involved in a kind of emancipation of the masses movement. He was a pastor in the 1950s. And he said, as you know, Serenity Prayer, to accept the things, the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to distinguish those two between themselves. Too many people spend too much time going, this is not fair, it's awful, but they can't do anything about it. And Serenity Prayer and these people who are activists went, this isn't okay, and what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? So what I'd like to do is take a few moments to think about, for you, what is your passion? What is your mission? What does inspire you? What does get you up in the morning? What would you do even if it didn't give you money? Even if it was a bit inconvenient because it was important enough? Have a think about that. Pop them down. What for you is something you're passionate about? We talked about this a few weeks ago when we looked at what is your mission, what you're interested in. But remind yourself, what am I up to? What's important for me? That's the first step of motivation. The rocket fuel of motivation is kind of checking in with yourself and going, what am I up for? What would I do even if it was tough? What would I do even if it didn't give me any money? What would I do just because this needs to be important? So helping others, we've got one thing coming up. What else, people? What's important for you? And it's important to share it for a couple of reasons. One, it will remind other people, oh, I really like that too. But also saying it, even if it's texting it, speaking it, making it real is an important part. Helping animals or other people, that's great. Doesn't have to be precise, super precise. Coach and mentor people. Zoe's podcast, Zoe's amazing podcast. Do put the link on the comments for people to look at. Vicky's is all about sharing, helping others, running retreats. Excellent. My dog and family. Now, whatever it is that you're passionate about, and as you watch this, walking in nature, yeah, watching and walking in nature. My children. Vicky's lovely dog. As you read these things, just think, what is it for me? Okay, what is it for me? I know there's 40 people on the call at the moment, so what is it? What do you want to do? Remembering that, reminding yourself of that, enabling people to know their rights, very good. Immediately moves us from thinking about, what do I want, to what do I want for something bigger than me? And those of you who know about this is what's called, on a more spiritual level, kind of a bigger system other than just us. And by connecting with that, it kind of allows us to step aside some of the stuff that gets in the way. Yeah. Those of you who've got kids, will know when they're little and you're in bed and you hear them cry out, you don't go, it's all right, I'm sure they're fine. You get up and you go and have a look, even though you don't really want to get up and go have a look, because you care, because it's important for you. If you've got an animal like a dog, you will take special care of it. If it looks upset, you'll check in with it. Yeah. So, checking in with yourself and asking, well, what for me is something that I am inspired by. There goes Vicky's podcast. Excellent. Do have a look at that after this seminar. Not now. As you connect with that feeling, just notice what that feels like and really zero in on why. Ask yourself, why is this important to me? Why is this important to me? Ask yourself that. Why is this important to me? So what's your reason behind it? George Bernard Shaw said a really interesting thing. I always remember him saying this. Not that I ever met him, but I remember reading about it. He said, I imagine life to be like a candle. And when I die, I want to be burnt all the way down. I want there to be none left. I have shone my light as bright as I could. I haven't wasted a single moment or a single piece of my possibility. Excellent. Being part of advancing the science behind the mind, body of medicine. Excellent. Bring people into a world I create by writing. Fabulous. Books and movies have helped me so much. So, amazing stuff. Flo would like to work with me. So yeah, why do you want to do this? Because, and notice what your because is. And very often when you ask that because about this big mission, it reminds you that this isn't about you. It's not about, people think well of me. That's really not what it's about. It's much more about, just because this is too important not to. I'm here to do something important. I'm here to make a difference. Yeah. Why do we want to bring happiness and peace to others? Because, notice what the because is. The because will help to fuel this sense of this is important. And keeping on asking that because question. I want to do this because, and why do you want to do that? And why is that important to you? Why is that important to you? It starts to mushroom and become bigger as you connect with it. Really spend a few moments asking yourself, because. Why do I want to do this? Because if others hadn't done that for me, I wouldn't be here now. Okay, and why is that important for you to take that role? What's important? Why is that so important for you? Yeah, and the more you answer these questions, because I adore animals and create more kindness and equality between humans and animals. Exactly, Tilly. And yeah, people are eating bats. That's where all this started, didn't it? So less of that, more kindness. So us connecting with, why are we doing this? I'm doing this because, reminds us of what it is that drives us. Then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to see your timeline. Okay? So see your future timeline. Just point to where it is. as you see your future. See a line that represents your future. Which direction is it in? Is it in front of you, behind you, to your right, to your left? Does it curve off one way? Just have a look at it. Just let me know in a comment, where is your future timeline as you look to your future? Got to be very careful with my language here, those people who know all about this, not to prejudice you and get you to take on a timeline that isn't yours. As you look at where your future is, notice, where is it? So write it down. Where is your timeline? As you look at it. And as you look at it, I'd like you to notice some other things about it. Is it wide? Is it narrow? Is it long? Is it short? Is it clear the whole way, or is it a bit vague and fluffy at one end? Is it going upwards? Is it going undulating? Is it going downwards? Is it curving off? What colour is it? If you touch it, is it hot or cold? If you stroke it, is it hard, soft, fluffy? As you connect with that, just notice what it's like. And particularly notice, how does it feel to have it like that? How does it feel to have it like that? What do I mean? Visualize it. If you were to guess it, if you were to guess where your timeline is, where would you guess it is? Again, Boris Johnson, when he was talking about the past, you saw him describe his timeline. So, in the past we used to do this, but now we're going to do this. That's past and future for him. So if you talk about the past or the time, where do you gesture to? If you think about the future or the past, where's the future? Where do you think it is? Where does it feel like it is? If you're not sure, ask yourself, does it feel like it's behind me? No, it feels wrong. To my left, just ask yourself those questions, you'll find out where it is. Excellent. Now, whatever colour it is, we've got red, gold, sparkly, whatever it is, whatever you guess or feel or see it or hear it or stroke it or touch it, whatever your feel is about it, I'd like you to just play around with it and change the colour. So if it is wide and gold and sparkly, fabulous. But try some different colours and see if that makes it even better. And what we're looking for, particularly at the moment, is what makes it feel most motivating. Cheers. What makes it feel most motivating? Which colour feels most motivating for you? If you think, I'm just making it up, that's fine. Make it up in a positive way for yourself so that when you look at it, it feels like, oh, that's the best way it should be. As you experience it in this way, change it around and then let me know what colours you've changed it, say. So put the letter C for changed it and then say what colour it is. Excellent. So if you don't want it straight and hard, have it fluffy, windy and surrounded by trees. That's lovely. You can also think about what music you'd like to have. Oh, windy, not windy. Okay, I think that's windy. No, it's not vodka this time. It's white rum, I think. That's what I'm going for. As you change it to a colour and a shape and an environment, maybe some music that you love to have, maybe some aromas, what perfume, what exotic or English flowers would you love to have? And add, as Lisa has done, some sparkles, some little Disney magic. Poof, 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 poof. What would it be like if you walked down the path and it popped like popping candy or Rice Krispies or like packing material? Or what if every time you trod on it, it was like a beautiful deep pile carpet? Or like a bouncy trampoline? I don't know. You choose. Jenny, you can do timelines on your cat. Just imagine what your cat's timeline would be like. And here, remember, we're only looking at your future. We're not doing anything else. Sage and gentle music. Excellent. Is that sage music, like wise music, or is it sage the herb? So, as you see it in this way, maybe also choose whether as it goes into the future, it gets wider or it gets narrower. And choose what you want. I'd also like you, as you do it, to notice where in that, so let's imagine this is my line, okay? Where in that line do you feel lockdown ends? Now, we don't know when lockdown is, but in your mind, you'll have a go at some point it's going to be finished. Notice where that is in that line. Okay? And then decide, let's try and get myself on camera, there we are. So let's imagine this is me, and this is where I think lockdown's going to end, okay? What would it be like if we brought that closer in our mind, so that our experience was there was less time? Because time is very variable, isn't it? You know, somebody says to you, have you got 5 minutes? 5 minutes can be a very variable amount of time. If somebody goes, oh, I've got to leave in 5 minutes, it's not enough time to make a cup of tea. Yeah. But if it's a rainy day and you're standing by a bus stop and the bus says 5 minutes, it feels like forever. Or on the tube, if those of you ever been in London on the tube, 5 minutes is like a super long time when you wait for the tube. So we know that time is very variable. So what if we compressed our time so that when we thought about lockdown, wherever it is, it feels like it's closer? What does that feel like? Other people may want to have a sense of it's further away. And I want to have more time to explore what it feels like to look at my magnolia coloured walls. Or I want to have more time hanging out with my family. I might want to do that. Yeah. But notice what it feels like to change your experience of time on purpose. Because when you compress time physically, try and get myself on camera again, there I am. When you compress time, like that, and you can compress time in a number of ways. You can kind of squish it up, or you can imagine it's got a ratchet like on a handbrake on a car, just coming closer. And doing that will change how you feel about how soon this is all going to change. I'd also like you to just float finally into the future. Take yourselves, well, let's go 10 years from now. Let's go 10 years from now where this is all done and dusted. Yeah? Where we look back on that and go, that was a funny old time, wasn't it? That Corona time. Yeah. Feel what it feels like to be in 2030, where we're looking back and we're reminiscing about that time back there then. So we're looking back at it and kind of going, oh, okay. That's, yeah, that was a time, wasn't it? What does it feel like to have that distance between you and it? And notice what you learnt as a result of that experience, having gone through that. What is it you learnt? What was really important for you as a result of going through that experience? What did you discover about yourself, or your friends, or your relationships, or what was important for you by doing that? And notice how this experience shaped the next 10 years of your life in a positive way. That it was something that you grew from. What is it you got from it? What did you learn? Just drop it down on the comments. This is what I learned from that time. So it may be that you learn, how important relationships are, how important going to the pub is, how great it is to be able to travel anywhere you want, how it was a time of reflection, how it reminded you that things can change in a moment and we need to be present to what is. How we saw a conservative government turning into a socialist government. How we saw all sorts of things. What is it for you as you think about it? As you look back from 2030, what do you learn? The importance of listening, the power of the pause, stop taking things for granted, excellent. Time for family, keeping calm to enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, how many people say I don't have enough time for the family, and now in lockdown I'm like, I have too much time. To really be, one of the core things of kind of being present is asking yourself, how do I want to bring myself to this moment? Because we can spend a lot of time just kind of squandering moments. We don't have to give ourselves a hard time about that either, but being present to what is as much as we can, really noticing what there is. Oh, I've got lots of answers coming here, brilliant. So, and life is precious, we should live in every moment. Time to learn to draw and paint. Appreciating nature. Need to learn to slow down, appreciate my family. Not to put things off, to have gratitude. Enjoy seeing the world the way my girls do, yeah. They see the wonder in buttercups and love going hunting for bugs. Excellent. Gratitude in nature. Relaxing. To not have a full-time schedule, yeah. And, creating some kind of structure for yourself to allow you to navigate this interesting time can be a very important thing. So we're going to finish in a few minutes. Any final questions you need to drop down? Going through the pandemic in the central London high-rise flat is extremely hard, says Stravula. Yes, I can imagine it is. At the same time, if there's nothing you can do about it, finding a way to generate your own sense of being, to shift your focus in the most powerful and positive way you can, is the only thing you can do. Can we talk about migraines? Okay, migraines. In the final moments, the main things you need to do about migraines is apply every single tool you have. If you've done the lightning process, you should be able to get rid of them. Okay, so you need to look at, what are my beliefs about them? A lot of migraines are about, this is the kind of time I'd get one, or I'm bound to have one now because I haven't had one for a while. So notice how much time you spend engaging with conversations about that. If you have the lightning process or similar tools, then you want to ask yourself, how do I apply this technique to this issue? With your beliefs, you want to check in with yourself and go, what is my belief? Do I believe I can get rid of it? If you don't, you need to maybe revisit the seminar I did on beliefs, I think it was last time. We looked at some of the questions you need to ask yourself, and we asked you to think about who for you is an exemplar, someone who's a mentor, who has already gone through the process that you're going through and come out the other side. So discovering someone who's unstoppable around their health, or someone who has recovered from this particular condition. And then the other thing is, as you use the tools, say the lightning process or other things, is really to keep your language clean. So use the do if you know about the do, and say, what in terms of what do I want, make sure you're asking yourself, or you're answering that question in terms of what you want rather than what you don't want. Be kind and compassionate to yourself, and spend some time really getting into calm, relaxed, comfortable states. That's what you need to do. If you keep doing that, you will change it, because remember, the one thing we know about the brain is it's always listening and it's always changing, and it's changing dependent on how we use it. So one of our responsibilities is to make sure we're doing what we can to steer it in the best possible direction. So there's some brief suggestions. If you want more stuff, there are a range of products on our website. If you've done the lightning process, and postgraduate products, particularly around pain or change and stuckness. There's also some stuff, if you haven't done the lightning process, some stuff on sleep and relaxation, which I really recommend getting hold of. They're only about, I don't know how much they are actually, they're less than 20 quid anyway, but they're, if you like the stuff we've done, you'll find them really useful, because you can listen to them again and again. And as I may have said before, sometimes when I can't sleep, I listen to them, and even though it's me talking and I know what I'm saying, it makes me go to sleep. I talked, and Bonnie's mentioned this here, I talked earlier about, we're thinking about if there's an interest and appetite in doing some coaching seminars where we can help you put all of these skills specifically to issues that you're trying to change in your life. If you're interested in that, just drop us a little message to say, I'm quite interested in doing some coaching. We'll have relatively small groups so we can focus up on people's specific issues. I haven't quite worked out the whole logistics of it, but if you are interested, do let me know. Drop us a message saying, yeah, I'm interested in those seminars on this chat, or just send me a message in Messenger. That's cool. And we need to get a certain number of people to make it work, so we can keep the costs low. Which download sessions would I recommend on my website? I would recommend, if you've done the Lightning process, and just go to the website. You see my eyes skipping around like a crazy thing here. Go to philparker.org, go to the store, and if you've done the Lightning process, I'm just going to copy this link for you, then that's the post-Lightning process support, and there's one specifically on pain or resolving pain. If you're more kind of interested in calm, then we'd recommend the magical relaxation and de-stress program, which is I think it's almost a couple of hours long. It's only $14.99, so that's quite a good thing. Can I bring the pooch? The pooch was in here, but I sent her away. Okay, cool. So I'm going to end now. I'm expecting to be here again in lockdown, week 9. We'll do at least one more before we work out what we're going to do next. So please do tell all your friends. This is kind of an interesting thing to be part of. It's been great. It's been lovely having you on board. We've had at least 40 something people joining at one time, and I think there's actually been a lot more. I'll look at the stats in a bit. But please do tell your friends if you think they'll be interested in having a chat about interesting things, learning some skills, resolving some stuff in this free version. Then please let us know. Until next week, same time, same place. See you guys then. Take care now. Do share it widely, and if you want instantly to get a hold of some of the stuff that we're doing, then the life skills course, of course, is the place to go. I'll send you a link for that as well, because that's up and ready to go. That's the online life skills course. Already got loads of people doing it and they're loving it. So if you're interested in how to put some of this stuff into practice in your own life, that'll be a cool thing to do. So until next time, guys, you take care. Love ya.